What is up, guys? This is The Broke Executive, and today I'm seated at my desk because we are doing a portfolio deep dive, and we're going to be looking at the different dividends I was paid throughout the calendar year of 2020, as well as how I track my dividends and how I track my portfolio in general, just so you guys can see exactly the type of stuff I look at, or how I set up my portfolio and how I'm able to help track it more than just what the dollar value says, and being able to see, dividends show up in my buying power. So with that, we're just going to jump right in. All right, so right here, you guys are going to be able to see, this is my Google Sheets where I track my dividend portfolio. I have all of the companies I own, as well as some companies I do not currently own yet. That is because they're on my watch list and they're companies I've been thinking about adding into my portfolio within the near future. And some companies that I just like to keep tabs on, see what they're up to. And you can see all of the companies are separated by the sector breakdown that I have put them in, which helps with down here. You can see I have the sector breakdown chart here as well as the pie chart. These are the two main things I look at when I'm trying to figure out what sectors I want to be buying into at the beginning of the month when I do, in fact, do my purchases. Right now, you can see my telecom of what it currently is compared to where my target value is slightly off. I'm likely going to be looking into buying telecom at the beginning of the month. Bonds is currently also under, but right now it's just not the best time to be buying bonds, and I did just buy some bonds very recently, so I don't want to be boring you guys and boring myself just buying the same companies month over month and month after month. Some important things to notice here within this Google Sheet is not only do I have the names, the cost basis, the cost per share, price, market value, I have all that, but then over here you can see the individual weighting and then the dividends and everything paid out. This column right here that says DRIP, that's just to remind myself that these are in fact my dividend paying companies and that I will be collecting those dividends and reinvesting them. When this portfolio gets much larger, perhaps there'll be a couple companies where I'm saying I'm not going to be reinvesting that money. I'm going to be using it to fund other aspects of my life. But as of right now, all the money that is being paid out through dividends is also going right back into dividend buying companies. Then right here, this YOC column, that is my yield on cost. That is the yield that I'm getting for what I actually paid. This is slightly different than the dividend yield, because as companies grow their dividend over time, my yield on cost will grow much better with that. So a good example of this is AT&T. You can see I've currently lost money on this investment, but again, not a huge deal for me because AT&T is a great company. I feel they're going to be doing really well, especially with them doing the movies going straight to HBO Max as well as in theaters. I feel that's really good for the company and, something to kind of consider and look at. But you can see it makes up about 3% of my portfolio. They pay out $2.08 per share per calendar year, which gives it a yield of 7.27%. My yield on cost, because I bought these shares at a higher price, is actually 5.96. That's not terrible, but it is lower than the actual yield. There are many companies in here that have a higher yield on cost than the actual yield of the company. A great example of that would be Discover Financial, so the credit card company. You can see their current yield is 1.81%, but because of the price I bought these shares at, I am actually receiving a 4.51% yield for their dividend on what I paid for it, which makes it very, very competitive and very nice for me to be able to own at this price. And then if you come down here to the totals, you can see how much I've spent, how much my stocks are worth, the amount of profit I've made on these investments. Then this number right here, this is my projected dividend income for the calendar year of 2021. As of right now, as I buy more companies, this number will go up. It's not a guarantee I'm receiving that money, especially if it's a company I buy in December. So this is really looking at the 12-month forward projection, how much I think I'm going to be making. And then my overall yield on cost, you can see this is 3.22%. I like to keep this number between 3 and 4%, ideally about 3.5. So it is a little low right now, but again, I did just buy bonds and those tend to be a fairly low yielding asset right now. Then over here, there's a quick summary report just so I can see quick numbers if I'm trying to look at anything. We can ignore this box. That's just how it populates a lot of this data for me. I don't have to be filling it in. And then right here, you see dividends earned by year, and this is just a quick view graph. I can see 2019, I made so much, 2020, and 2021, what I currently own. Then if we flip over to the next page, you can see I have all of my sector breakdowns. You'll recognize some of these tables from past videos where I talked about my individual sectors. This is where I go and look at that. So because I decided, say I want to look into buying more of health, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, because that's what I purchased at the beginning of this past month, we can go to the health and pharma section. You can see all of the companies here. I do own all of the ones I have currently within this Google Sheet and the portfolio itself. Then you can see the percent of the sector, as well as a quick pie chart just to be able to look at this. So right now, I wouldn't necessarily say this is as balanced as I'd like it to be, but I'm able to see I currently have the majority of my money between AbbVie and Johnson & Johnson. And then I have all the other sectors broken down as well. Then we can look at the monthly dividend income growth. This is also a chart you guys will be familiar with if you have watched my portfolio review videos. This is exactly what it looks like. It's all the dividends I've earned month by month. And then right here we have a table just where we can look at it. And this table is populated by other pages within my sheet. You will notice since the last video I have gotten dividends announced for April, so I have added April into there. And then if we flip over to, we're actually going to jump to the 2020 dividends because this is the table you guys want to see. Right here we have all of the dividends I earned throughout the calendar year of 2020. You can see all of the companies, their tickers, and then when they paid their dividend and the total amount they paid per calendar year. You will notice AT&T is the largest paid overall at $9.88. This is kind of expected with their high dividend and the number of shares I own, but it's nice to see that these companies are paying dividends. I can look at it and figure out exactly which companies are paying me what amount. And then if we scroll down to the bottom, we can also see how much was paid per month. So I know right here this was December, which then gets populated into this table in this chart. So there's that $20.16 I received. You guys will be familiar with that number if you've watched my other videos. Then I would like to point out this is an Acorns account. I have since closed this account and I actually split the money from that account into this portfolio as well as my Roth IRA. The Roth IRA is not counted into this because that is a retirement account. I'm not even able to access that money anyway, so I'm not considering it as part of my dividend income. Moving forward into 2021, you will notice that section of the table has disappeared and you can see what companies have already announced their dividends for me for the calendar year of 2021. Currently, my monthly income for the month of January is at $3.39. This should go up a little bit with SPHD paying out at the end of the month. But again, there's no guarantee of that dollar value. So currently I'm at $3.39. Some important things to remember when looking at these different tables and charts is not all of these companies I own. So right here, the SPY ETF, I do not currently own that one. I just have it in there. So that line will always be blank. Companies like Gilead and Merck, these are companies I bought at the beginning of January. So obviously I have no dividend payments there. So these will start filling in. And if you guys are familiar with my videos and you do know my biggest loss of Delta Airlines, I do have it. I do still own those shares. I do still keep it in this portfolio and on this Google Sheet. I can see in March I was paid out $8.21 before they canceled their dividend. But unfortunately, within the short term, I'm going to be looking at no return currently. One final way I like to track my dividends and how I invest my money and making sure that I do have that dividend income is actually on my phone. It's an app called DivCalc. So when we go ahead and open up this app, you can see it will update and load. And then I'm going to be able to look at the amount of dividends I'm receiving annually, monthly, and daily, just as an average broken down. Then you can see all of the companies that I currently own, how much they will be paying me in dividends. And then if we were to say, like my example of Discover earlier, we can open up Discover. You can see their current yield is 1.34%. It pays out $1.32 per share per year. Then you can see I own 4 shares at an average price of $39.01, which gives me a yield on cost, in this case, of 3.4%, which is slightly different than what my sheet shows, which shows that obviously with calculating percentages, there's a little bit of variance, but I am able to see that there is, in fact, a change in the dividend and the growth. So you can scroll through, we can look at all the different companies I own. Unfortunately, within this app, for some reason, Delta Airlines is still showing it pays a dividend, so I just have to, take that one with a grain of salt. I know it doesn't actually pay out right now, but I do have it in here just so if they do resume paying dividends, it will be calculated. And then if we scroll across here, you can see how much I earn quarterly. My average yield on cost, which you will notice is that 3.2%. Average yield, there's a bug in the app right now, so it's currently telling me I am actually yielding some insane value, but don't worry about that one. You can also see the number of positions I own, which is currently 31. You can flip over one more time. I can see my annual income goal is $250. I'm currently earning $181.72 according to this app. And that goal of $250 is how much I put in every month. I'd like to be able to be earning 1 month of my contributions right now. That way I'm essentially investing 13 months in a 12-month period. And that's where that dividend snowball that I've talked about before really comes into play, because that's an entire extra month that I'm investing for free. And then we can also have multiple accounts. So we can hop over to my M1 account. You can see this has a much smaller goal. There's much smaller positions within it. That's because I'm building this up over time, just not as aggressively as my Robinhood. I'm currently getting paid out about $25.63, which is how much I put in once every 2 weeks. So I put in about $50 a month to this account. That way, I am in fact building up a Roth IRA account, and I do in fact have a retirement account set up. And then you can see I don't have individual stocks and companies picked. I'm using ETFs in this. That way it's much more hands-free, much less to worry about. And this is where I can mindlessly invest my money. And because I do it through M1, they do fractional shares. So we can open this one up. You can see SPHD. I talk about this company all the time. I currently own 4.7476 shares at an average price of $36.25. which gives me a yield of 5% compared to the yield of 4.62%. That's really all I can show you guys with this app. You can in fact look at news, upcoming dividends and stuff, but I tend not to rely on this. I tend to use other news outlets like Seeking Alpha in order to actually see when dividends are announced, but this is nice to have as a handheld app if I ever wanted to use it. All right, so now that I've showed you guys how I track my dividends, and I'm sure some of you guys were quick enough to notice the number, time for the grand reveal of just how much I made in 2020 off dividend investing alone. This does not consider capital gains. This is purely the amount paid out to me by other companies that I am currently invested in, and it comes out to $105.78. Now, obviously, my goal is much higher than $105.78 a calendar year. I'd like to be getting that monthly, or even better. However, again, this is just starting. I've only been dividend investing for about a year and a couple months, so this shows that there is, in fact, definitive forward progress. My current projection for 2020 is about $184. I'm going to try to break 200 and see if I can get to that 250 number before the end of the calendar year, but as with any investing, there is risk, and I am going to have to, play with what companies decide. So that's really all I have. If you guys want to start investing, you can sign up for Robinhood and get 1 free stock when you sign up with my link that I have down in the description. Or you can sign up for Webull, where if you sign up and deposit $100, you can get 4 free stocks, 2 of which can be valued up to $1,600. You can feel free to follow me on Instagram. I have that linked in the description as well. And with that, I'm going to remind you guys to like and subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment down below as well. And I will see you executives in the next video.